The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 4415. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 4415, number 2 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to education, a third engrossment.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Dabney, the author of the bill, to describe the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, this bill is commonly known as the hourly worker bill. And it's that and more for Minnesota. Our goal with this legislation is twofold: to assert our role as a co-equal branch of government, and the policy-setting branch at that, and to support schools, staff, students, and families by directing as stable and predictable a path forward amid what is, and certainly feels like, a challenging situation. This body has been looking forward, anticipating the challenges that students and staff and families are experiencing, and planning for them. With the extension of the distance learning to the end of the school year, the right call by Governor Walz, it's urgent that we act. In this turbulent time, Minnesotans need as much certainty as we can provide them. Lord knows the COVID-19 virus provides them with enough uncertainty. Certainty on whether they have a job tomorrow and a paycheck coming on Friday. Whether their child gets to advance a grade in school as anticipated. Whether their store, restaurant, or other small business will have customers. This is even truer for those we have deemed to be essential workers during this public health crisis. House File 4415 attempts to answer those questions for school staff, their families, and the communities they live in. We propose holding school districts financially whole as possible as they implement distance learning so that they in turn can keep their education support personnel, bus drivers, food program, and other hourly staff whole during any school closures related to the current public health crisis. During this challenging and unexpected time of distance learning, Minnesota school staff have stepped up in extraordinary ways. We recognize and respect the value that they create every day during this time for students, as they have every day in school previous to this. This includes those employed by private companies, such as many districts use for bus transportation. By doing so, by keeping those districts and those staff and their families whole, we also support the communities, as many small businesses across the state feel the stress of the current abrupt economic changes. Many of those small businesses are opening up again today, providing curbside service. What they need is not only to open their doors, what they need is customers at those curbs waiting for them. We support our districts, school staff, and communities by allowing for a set of school formula adjustments to limit any revenue losses for fiscal years 21, 22, and 20, 21, and 22 because of the school program changes required under the current conditions. These changes are all designed to be revenue neutral and assure school districts that they receive the revenues that they had budgeted for at the beginning of this school year. We provide in this bill flexibility for the regional libraries to use regional telecom aid to increase access to the internet, either through Wi-Fi that they provide or through devices. Access to the internet is a statewide need and a critical one as a priority for distance learning. This is just one initiative currently moving through this body to allow for internet access for students. We propose allowing school districts and schools expanded flexibility in transferring funds within their budgets. We propose that for students involved in distance learning, assuring that this year's high school seniors get to graduate and that younger students get to advance a grade as expected. This mirrors the national hold harmless approach so that students don't bear the sole responsibilities for the challenges of distance learning and technology. We direct the commissioner to waive the requirement for this year for MCA and state-required college prep testing that are in state law. And we propose protecting teachers, administrators, and student teachers moving forward on establishing or renewing their licenses so that they can greet students again next fall. We propose allowing student teachers to achieve licensure even if their experience falls a little short of the required number of days. And we provide probationary teachers credit in advancing towards those continuing contract or tenure approaches. Members, this is our opportunity to invest in the essential workers in every community in the state so that they can in turn invest in their communities, get a cup of coffee at the coffee shop, a new pair of pants at the clothing store, a can of paint at the hardware store, or top off the tank of gas at the gas station, and give those retailers and those businesses the support they need. I urge your support for House File 4415. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
There's an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Kreshaw moves to amend House File number 4415, the third engrossment, as follows. The amendment is coded DE 13.
The member from Morrison, Representative Kreshaw.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. And 8 short weeks ago, one of the most common conversations we were having in committee was a workforce shortage. Every sector we were dealing with was looking at a workforce shortage. That no longer applies. As of yesterday, I heard the latest account of Minnesota unemployment is near 600,000, well over 20%. Members, no matter how hard we try, people are going to lose jobs, families are going to be upturned, communities are going to have to deal with the loss of revenue. And as I told the groups in committee, the school groups, the money is running out. No matter what we do, we are going to stare down a deficit, and we're going to stare down a situation where community schools are going to be scrambling to figure out how to make ends meet. That's not a fun conversation. It's not fun at all. Make no mistake about it. We would love, there isn't a single member in this body that would love to give 100% certainty to everybody in Minnesota and get us back down to the 3% unemployment rate and to say, you're going to be okay and you're not going to lose your job. I take 6 to 12 phone calls a day of people who have no idea what tomorrow is going to look like, who have no idea what the world's going to look like in July. Those are hard phone calls, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one getting this. We, as policymakers, have to look at how we can put the best situation in place and trust the people that are closest to the problem, which is the school boards and the superintendents. House File 4415 has some great provisions in it, in fact, many of which we agree with and we've helped write. I think it was a great collaborative effort by both sides. However, there is some uncertainty in how we force the pay down to the school districts. One of the things that House File, or that the DE amendment does, is it offers in good faith to embrace the things we agree with in House File 4415 and also to find ways where we can allow the school districts to have conversations, hard conversations with their employees as it pertains to distance learning. The language in Article 1, many of the provisions in the bill I'm going to go through between the DE amendment are very similar to House File 4415. The main area of separation is on Article 1, dealing with how we handle employees, hourly employees. And it's not a separation of philosophy. From day one, when we first started to hear this happening, as we were huddled, and I was having conversations with colleagues in school districts, community members across the aisle, it seemed consistent. The schools should get the money that was budgeted to them. We should find a way to keep open and do our very best to get these kids through the school year for next year. And if you're working, you should get paid. I have yet to hear any school district where people are working and not getting paid. And in fact, if that's happening, that should go right to wage theft. But I don't believe the people that are calling me, the superintendents, the teachers, these are not people saying to me, we're not gonna pay our employees. What they're saying is, how do I get to July 1st? How do I open this school up next year? How do I help these seniors get through one of the most monumental times of their life that has been stripped away and still come back in the fall and help the next classes? Those are the things that we're hearing. So when we looked at the bill, and as we went back and forth, one of the things that became abundantly clear in talking to Myron Franz, Commissioner Myron Franz in Ways and Means, when we asked him, why are you, the governor and the commissioner, not putting more teeth and putting more restrictions on how to handle hourly employees? Why are you not forcing the hand of these school districts? His answer was this, and I thought it was the right answer. We don't know what the federal dollars are going to do yet. Therefore, we can't push this too far down in the school districts. So when we look at that, I started to wonder, what flexibility are we talking about? What are we really saying? Because the reality is, we heard in committee, in fact, Commissioner Rickards said, and nonpartisan staff said, 4415 cannot prevent layoffs. If a school district has to go to a layoff, you cannot prevent it. That's hard. As much as we would like to take that possibility away, as much as I would love to say to every single hardworking school district employee, you have a job, you can't. Not because we don't want to, but because the economic shutdown that we're sitting at right now is siphoning money out of the tills of our budget so fast that we're not going to be able to keep up. And so, as I was thinking about this and worrying about this bill, trying to figure out how do we make sure school districts get their money, that we pay people for the work they're doing, and that we hold them harmless and hold them whole, how do we do that with the superintendents and the school boards having the necessary conversation with their employees? And lo and behold, I'm in Walmart and I bump into one of the superintendents in my district. And I said, how's it going? He said, it's hard. I said, it's really hard. I said, well, tell me what's going on. Tell me how we can help. He said, I need flexibility. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, I have a couple school districts, small school district, by the way. This is a school district where the superintendent drives a school bus because of how tight things are. He said, I have an hourly employee who has an elderly parent that this person is taking care of. And he said, I need the flexibility to bank those hours so they can take care of their employee, and I don't have to force them into a situation where I pay all their time right now or I lay them off. He said, as I see the bill now, I have two choices. I pay them the entirety of the contract, which was put together before the crisis, or I lay them off. He said, that's a tough position. He said, give me the flexibility. I will work with this person. I will make sure I retain their employment, but I need to do it for the long haul. So I took a step back and we started to talk about this. And what we came to was, frankly, the governor's language and MDE's guidance was pretty good on this. The language suggests that we allow the school districts to have these conversations, but that you find things for them to do. You give them the opportunity to work. You find a way to keep the schools going. And they are. They responded amazingly. You've heard the stories. They're putting meals together. They're delivering meals to kids all over. The distance learning they're doing, they're reaching out to kids. I can tell you as the parent of a daughter who's a senior, another daughter who's a ninth grader, and another daughter who's a seventh grader, that these teachers, these paraprofessionals, these custodians, these cooks have gone above and beyond, and they're being paid for it. I've not heard one instance where I have not received one phone call where they said, I'm being asked to do all this by the school district and not receiving compensation. In fact, what they're saying is, we're just trying to make sure these kids get through the school year without the adverse effects that we know are going to happen emotionally and physically. So we offer the DE amendment, not to offer a partisan, hey, we're going this way. We looked hard at what Commissioner Rickards had put together, and we looked at what the governor, and we decided if the commissioner and the governor can agree on that language, it's the right language, it seems to give support to the schools, why not offer that up and codify that in session law and give the certainty of those words to law? So that's what we're doing. So that's what the DE amendment does. I'm going to run through a couple more things. Article 1, the school closures. Again, we take the Governor Walz's policy and MDE guidance, we put that into law for the session. Similar to 4415, we have payment of contractors agreeing to pay their employees. So bus drivers and contracts, we make sure we take care of that. Ensuring teachers can count the school year towards their 3-year probationary period minimizes truancy concerns for students. All those things, full agreement on. There's formula adjustments in Article 2. Expands the allowable use of surplus library telecommunications aid and cash flow adjustments. We have a couple of differences in Article 2. Rather than paying out the remaining state aid for school meal reimbursements based on the number of meals served by the summer food program, this intends to pay each school based on what they should have gotten, not by how many meals. What we certainly don't want to do is set up a scenario where schools are inflating their meals or preparing meals just to get aid. Let's just give them the money that they otherwise would have gotten and not have to worry about the meal count. Let's get that correct. We do the fund transfer flexibility. It's a bit more flexible than the 4415 in that we allow the schools to go ahead and move those dollars. I think there's a good provision in 4415, which has accountability to MDE. We actually remove that because, again, having the accountability and the flexibility of school districts. We have an Article 3 that's very similar for session law on the statutory minimum number of instructional days, and then Article 4, we allow the use of e-learning days. In fact, we even extend it next year that there can be more if there's another infectious outbreak. We too are looking forward. We have no idea what next year is going to bring. And we require in this DE the Commissioner of Education to evaluate online learning options if they have to repeat distance learning. And this would be consistent with the governor's executive order. So again, members, I don't see this as a complete diversion. It's another solution. It's another attempt at trying to get to a problem we all know and recognize. We like our language. We think we like the governor's language. We like MDE's. And if you vote for this, you're voting for many of the same provisions in 4415, but you're also voting for the guidance that's come from the commissioner and come from the governor. And we think that's the right approach right now until we have further information. And so with that, members, this is the DE, and I would urge your support. And Madam Chair, I would ask for a roll call so I don't forget.
Representative Grisha requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Representative Grisha, for your excellent explanation of our DE 13 amendment. Because, members, what our amendment is doing here, the one created in part with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle and with some original ideas from us, is it provides more relevance for the last 14 days that many of our children have left in school, and that means staff as well. Because in small schools in rural Minnesota, and maybe even some larger, the 22nd of May is the end of the school year. So we don't have much time. So this DE amendment really provides more transparency. It is more honest with school employees about, yes, what came in the guidance from MDE and the governor's executive order. But more than that, it provides that flexibility that you heard Representative Krisha mention that many districts have been looking for, and we don't want deficit spending to occur. Other expenses have cropped up during these days of COVID-19, and so we need to make sure that our school districts are going to be whole and held harmless before the end of these next 14 days, and for districts who go in to the end of May and June, the same. In addition, this DE 13 has a more, I think, specific monitoring and evaluation by the Commissioner of Education. We have this in our section, in our Article 3 and in Section 3, because we really believe that this is a time when the Commissioner needs to collect information from districts and charters so that we know if we have this experience again, or if we become a state of blended learning, that we have learned from this experiment, as I call it, in distance learning, that our children have been given the chance to master our state academic standards and to earn the credit that is well deserved. We also ask for a savings, that the Commissioner would distribute any savings attributable to the suspension of statewide testing. As you know, the MCAs were not given, and there will be a savings, or there should be, based on that cost to Pearson, and so we want that to be distributed statewide. Another very, very good proposal that we've included in Section 5 is the ability for those teachers whose license would be renewed during this next calendar year to be able to complete that renewal based on the renewal units they have earned, and to receive that, that relicensure without having to go through that process that's required, unless, of course, there's a disciplinary action. That's really important to our teaching staff, to be able to go to PALSB and get approval for renewal of their license if it expires in this calendar year of 2020. You heard Representative Krisha mention Article 4, which is not contained in 4415, is a new provision that we've added because we think it's important to focus on e-learning and to put in our session law some of the provisions that are going to be important for future instances when we may need to go to e-learning. And finally, an evaluation of online learning options. We also asked the Commissioner to evaluate those options for expanded enrollment of existing online providers who are serving our students. There are so many online programs out there that our children are taking advantage of, that parents are trying to figure out day in and day out as parents are working with their children to support our statewide standards. This is a very good provision. So members, I think what we have here in the DE 13 amendment is something that's more relevant to our situation presently, that's more honest with school employees, and that really serves the situation of this COVID-19 school closure, distance learning, more to the expectation that we have of our school staff and our children and their learning. I ask for your yes vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Joachim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the other side of the aisle for working with us on this bill from the very get-go. I know Representative Dabney and I looped you in, and we appreciate the working relationship we had. I do have some concerns about some of the sections in this DE 13, though. Article 3, Section 5. I applaud you for wanting to renew the contracts of our current teachers, but we all know that we also have a lack of teachers in the classroom. Districts are still trying to find teachers, specifically teachers of color, and this provision does not include something we have included in House File 4415, and that is the waiver for the first 6 months of the MTLE exam. This is an exam our teachers take, our new teachers that are going through school who have spent a lot of time and money to graduate. That's one exam, that's the only thing that's within statute that PALSB can't waive. So you will have a whole new generation of teachers graduating this year that won't be able to get a license unless you included that. So a little disappointed in that. And then also Article 4, none of those provisions were heard in the Ed Policy Committee. While I applaud talking about e-learning and extending that, MDE has been very specific about e-learning, that distance learning does not necessarily mean e-learning, because we have so many students across our state that still lack access to broadband, to Wi-Fi, to internet. In Minneapolis schools alone, we are, 4 weeks into distance learning, if not more, and we still have 8,000 students that don't have access. So I'm concerned that we just talk about e-learning there. Plus, there's a section in on line 2 that talks about a district or charter school choosing to close due to an infectious disease outbreak, but it doesn't require them to have a conversation with MDEH about that. So I would really want MDH to be involved in that. So those are just a few reasons why I'm going to have a hard time supporting this amendment.
Discussion to the DE 13. Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, I'm going to urge a no vote on the Crecia amendment. As we look across the state and we hear from our education staff, they want the certainty in House File 4415. A good administrator, a good manager, a good leader works with their staff. They recognize in times like this, when their staff are providing childcare to our Tier 1 essential workers, when they're driving the bus not to pick up the kids, but to drop off the meals, and the packets in places and for ages where online learning, e-learning isn't really an option, that there are folks who have health conditions that put them into high-risk populations, or they live with someone in a high-risk population. And a good manager, a good administrator, a good leader works with those people. House File 4415 allows them to do that. A good leader listens to their staff, and the staff across the state, as evidenced in your inboxes, support House File 4415. And the knowledge that they will have a job with meaningful work in their school building, in their school district, that they will have a paycheck on Friday, that they are not only valued and appreciated, but compensated for their work. They're willing and ready and have been standing up, and we should support them in doing that. I'm disturbed that Representative Crecia intimated that some school districts would inflate the number of meals that they're serving to hungry students. House File 4415 says if you feed kids, you should get paid for it. If you feed kids, you should get the compensation you need to cover the expenses. And I think that's appropriate. And lastly, I want to echo Representative Joachim's words on the untested expense and provision in Section 4 of this bill that has not been vetted in any committee process. Members, I ask for a no vote on the DE 13.
Further discussion? Closing argument. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. Folks on the phone, the moment has come for the alphabetical order of names to be called. Please state your name and then your vote. The clerk will take the roll on the amendment.
Acom.
Acom, no.
Acom, no. Albright. Albright, aye. Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye. Backer.
Backer, aye.
Backer, aye. Bonner. Bonner, no. Barr. Barr, aye. Baker.
Baker votes aye.
Baker, aye. Becker Finn.
Becker Finn, no.
Becker Finn, no. Bennett. Bennett, aye. Bernardi.
Bernardi, no.
Bernardi, no. Bierman.
Bierman, no.
Bierman, no. Bo.
Bo, aye.
Bo, aye. Brand.
Brand, no.
Brand, no. Cantrell.
Cantrell, no.
Cantrell, no. Carlson, A.
Carlson, A, no.
Carlson, A, no. Carlson, L.
Carlson, L, no.
Carlson, L, no. Christensen.
Christensen, no.
Christensen, no. Claflin. Claflin.
Claflin, no.
Claflin, no. Considine.
Considine, no.
Considine, no. Daniels. Daniels.
Daniels votes yea.
Daniels, aye. Doubt. Doubt, aye. Davids. Davids, aye. Davney. Davney, no. Dean. Dean, no. Damath. Damath, aye. Detmer. Detmer, aye. Drazkowski.
Grozkowski, aye.
Drazkowski, aye. Eklund. Eklund.
Eklund, no.
Eklund, no. Edelson. Edelson. Elkins.
Elkins, no.
Elkins, no. Erickson. Yes. Erickson, aye. Fabian. Fabian, aye. Fisher.
Fisher, no.
Fisher, no. Franzen.
Franson, yes.
Franzen, aye. Freiberg.
Freiberg votes no.
Freiberg, no. Garofalo.
Garofalo, yes.
Garofalo, aye. Gomez.
Gomez, no.
Gomez, no. Green.
Green, yes.
Green, aye. Grossel.
Grossel, aye.
Grossel, aye. Grunhagen.
Gruenhagen, aye.
Grunhagen, aye. Gunther. Gunther. Haley.
Haley, aye.
Haley, aye. Halverson.
Halverson, no.
Halverson, no. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hanson.
Hanson, no.
Hanson, no. Hassan.
Hassan, no.
Hassan, no. Hausman.
Houseman, no.
Hausman, no. Heinrich.
Heinrich, aye.
Heinrich, aye. Heinzman.
Heinzman, aye.
Heinzman, aye. Her.
Her, no.
Her, no. Hertos.
Hertos, aye.
Hertos, aye. Hornstein.
Hornstein, no.
Hornstein, no. Howard.
Howard, no.
Howard, no. Hewitt.
Hewitt, no.
Hewitt, no. Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Johnson, aye. Jordan. Jordan, no. Jurgens.
Jurgens, aye.
Jurgens, aye. Keel.
Keel, aye.
Keel, aye. Cleavorn.
Claiborne, no.
Cleavorn, no. Cagle.
Cagle, no.
Cagle, no. Katiza Watun. Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun votes aye.
Katiza Watun, aye. Kosnick.
Cosmic, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Kreshaw. Kreshaw, aye. Kunish-Podine. Kunish-Podine, no. Lehman.
Lehman, aye.
Lehman, aye. Lee. Lee.
You are unmuted.
Lee, no.
Lee, no. Lesh.
Lesh, no.
Lesh, no. Liebling.
Liebling, no.
Liebling, no. Lean.
Lean, no.
Lean, no. Lilly.
Lily, no.
Lilly, no. Lippert.
Lippert, no.
Lippert, no. Lislegard.
Lislegard, no.
Lislegard, no. Long.
You are
Long, no. Lucero.
No. Lucero. Lucero, yes.
Lucero, aye. Lewick.
Lewick, aye.
Lewick, aye. Mahoney.
Mahoney, no.
Mahoney, no. Mann.
Man, no.
Mann, no. Mariani.
Mariani, no.
Mariani, no. Markwart.
Markwart, no.
Markwart, no. Mason.
Mason, no.
Mason, no. McDonald.
McDonald, aye.
McDonald, aye. Mecklin.
Meckland, aye.
Mecklin, aye. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Moeller.
Moeller, no.
Moeller, no. Moran.
Morant, no.
Moran, no. Morrison.
Morrison, no.
Morrison, no. Munson. Munson, aye. Murphy.
Murphy, no.
Murphy, no. Nash. Nash, aye. Nelson M. Nelson M, no. Nelson N.
Nelson N, aye.
Nelson N, aye. Nor. Nornis.
Nordis, aye.
Nornis, aye. Novotny.
Novotny, aye.
Novotny, aye. O'Driscoll. O'Driscoll, aye. Olson.
Olson, aye.
Olson, aye. O'Neill.
Olson, no. Olson, no.
Olson, no. O'Neill.
O'Neill, aye.
O'Neill, aye. Pulowski.
Pulowski, no.
Pulowski, no. Purcell.
Purcell, no.
Purcell, no. Petersburg.
Petersburg, aye.
Petersburg, aye. Pearson.
Pearson, aye.
Pearson, aye. Pinto.
Pinto, no.
Pinto, no. Poppy.
Poppy, no.
Poppy, no. Poston.
Poston, aye.
Poston, aye. Pryor.
Pryor, no.
Pryor, no. Quam. Quam, aye. Richardson.
Richardson, no.
Richardson, no. Robbins.
Robbins, aye.
Robbins, aye. Runbeck.
Runbeck, aye.
Runbeck, aye. Sandell.
Sandell, no.
Sandell, no. Sandsted.
Hempstead, no.
Sandsted, no. Sauk.
Sauk, no.
Sauk, no. Schumacher.
Schumacher, aye.
Schumacher, aye. Schultz.
Schultz, no.
Schultz, no. Scott.
Scott, aye.
Scott, aye. Stevenson.
Stevenson, no.
Stevenson, no. Sundin.
Sundin, no.
Sundin, no. Swazinski.
Swazinski, yes.
Swazinski, aye. Tabke.
Tabke, no.
Tabke, no. Tice.
Tice, aye.
Tice, aye. Torkelson.
Torkelson, aye.
Torkelson, aye. Erdahl.
Erdahl, aye.
Erdahl, aye. Vang.
Vang, no.
Vang, no. Vogel.
Vogel, aye.
Vogel, aye. Wagenius.
Wagenius, no.
Wagenius, no. Wozlowick.
Wozlowick, no.
Wozlowick, no. West.
West, aye.
West, aye. Winkler. Winkler, no. Wagamot.
Walgamot, no.
Wagamot, no. Zhang Jie.
Zhong J, no.
Zhang Jie, no. Zhang Ti.
Zhong T, no.
Zhang Ti, no. Joachim. Joachim, no. Speaker Hartman? No. Speaker Hartman, no. Edelson?
Edelson, no.
Edelson, no. Gunther?
Gunther, yes.
Gunther?
Gunther, yes.
Gunther, aye. Knorr? Knorr?
No, no.
Knorr, no. Katiza Watun? Katiza Watun
votes no.
Katiza Watun votes no.
There being 58 ayes and 75 nays. Let me just be really clear about that because the mask makes it hard to be clear. 58 ayes and 75 nays. The motion does not prevail. The amendment is not adopted. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 4415.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. It's my understanding that Representative Erdahl would like to be recognized.
Support the bill.
Representative Erdahl, you are unmuted. Please proceed with your debate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I support this bill for several reasons. It is important to do what we can to ensure that our hourly school employees receive the pay that we appropriated to the schools to pay them. I'm concerned about school bus companies. I've been told that 30% of our school districts have altered terms of their contracts with the bus companies. And I'm pleased to see a provision in this bill to allow waivers for payments relating to bond issues. Thank you, Chair Daphne, for your work, and I urge support for this bill.
The member from Anoka, Representative Ramsey. Kunesh Padin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Today is May 4th, so may the 4th be with you. Let's begin with that. And it's also Teachers Appreciation Day. So first off, I just want to say thank you to all of the teachers and their families. I hope that they are safe during this most unusual time. I want to thank them for their dedication and patience and understanding while we've been adjusting to this drastic change in life during the time of distance learning. We want to thank you and your families once again as you continue to educate our children with compassion and consideration that I hear about all the time from not just the teachers that I work with, but from across our communities. So stay well. So members, I'd like you to take out a pencil or pen and a piece of paper because we're going to do a little bit of math. You can do your math on the paper, or you can practice a little bit of mental math, as I like to call it, because we have a problem, and so many of our hourly workers also have a problem. It's a problem that we can solve today, so get ready and do a little bit of math with me. It's a word problem, something we all love. So Kitty works 40 hours a week, and she earns $12.35 an hour. So multiply that $12.35 by 40, and you'll get a number. She gets paid bi-weekly. So figure that out for 2 weeks, and then figure that out for 4 weeks. And I'll give you a hint. She earns about $1,976 a month. She has to pay her Social Security taxes, she has to pay Medicare, she has to pay her state income tax withholdings, and various local taxes and withholdings such as city, county, and schools. And then there are those various other withholdings that will bring her take home to about 2/3 of what she might have earned at 100%. If you do the math, we're down to about $1,337 a month. So in addition to that, those withholdings, Kitty pays health insurance for her and her daughter to the tune of $186 a paycheck. So that's 186 times 2. Subtract that from what we just had. She also pays $300 to rent a basement because she's a single mom and doesn't get assistance from her child's father. She pays $300 in rent and $400 in daycare. If you've done the math, we are now down to $265 that Kitty has in her pocket. She has to pay her car payment, and she has to pay her car insurance, which is about $170 a month. And if you've done the math, you'll find out that she has $42.50 at the end of the month, $42.50 a week to buy groceries, to buy diapers, to clothe herself and her child, and for any of those other things that we all hold near and dear. $42.50. As an hourly school worker, Kitty is not eligible for unemployment benefits, but in the past she's worked at a local restaurant to earn money, especially during the summer, because she doesn't get paid during the summer as an hourly worker. Kitty doesn't have any savings to fall back on, so now we know that inevitably Kitty's going to have to ask Minnesota to help in and support her and her child. She'll need money to pay rent, so she'll probably have to apply for financial assistance from the state. She won't be able to pay her health insurance, so that means Minnesota Care will come in for her. She still needs to feed her daughter and herself, so she's going to have to apply for SNAP benefits. It's never easy to recover from a devastating financial situation. I know that personally because 25 years ago, through no problem of my own, I was in pretty much the same situation as Kitty. It takes years to come out of it. So this bill, House File 4415, supports our libraries, it helps the core of our communities, it ensures that new teachers are held harmless, and it allows for flexibility and invests in the bare minimums for our students and our teachers and our schools. As Representative Erickson said, we don't have much time. There's only a few weeks left of school. Some of these people are holding on by the edge, some not at all, and we have an opportunity to make that difference. We have school districts that will receive money from the billions of dollars that we will get from the federal government. Schools are still getting the same amounts that they've received with or without the COVID virus. And there have been ways to do cost savings. And so our school districts do struggle. I know my own school district does. It started out with an incredible deficit to begin with. But that doesn't mean that we build that deficit on the back of our hourly workers. And so, members, I'm asking you today, because we don't have much time, to vote aye for House File 4415.
It's my understanding that Representative Bennett would like to be unmuted to contribute to the debate. She's here, actually. Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think I'm going to take I better not touch it. I don't know. Anyways, thank you for this opportunity to speak. Members, I'm very torn about this. But from what I understand, and Representative Kunesh-Podein, that was a heartbreaking story, and I totally agree with you. We don't want that to happen. And that's happening to a lot of people in many different sectors of our business communities and so on, and it's terrible in all cases. But from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Representative Dabney or Representative Kunesh-Podein, but from my understanding, with the bill as it is, Katie wouldn't just get her hours cut, she would lose her job, or she could lose her job. Because in the current bill, I fear that there are openings that these people could lose their total job, and that it also leaves out the opportunity for schools and employees like Katie to be able to work together to find a solution. And part-time and this or that might be the solution. I've heard from other employees that they want part-time. So in this case, it's full-time or it's nothing, and that doesn't help either. And this is tragic, and I really don't know how to fix it. I don't know if we can totally fix it, because the circumstances right now in all sectors of our business community and employment are facing these very same problems. So I'm really torn because I hear you talk about that story, but I don't really think this fixes it. And with the amendment that we just offered, from what I understand, at least the schools would have some flexibility to work with their employees, because I don't think any school district wanted to lay off their employees. I know they didn't. And they want their students back. I wish they could be back. We all do, but the circumstances just don't allow that. So that concerns me a lot. And I honestly don't feel like the bill that's before us solves this problem. I think it makes it worse. I think it makes it worse because schools can no longer work with their employees to find a solution that works for both. I don't think it works because schools are stuck to continue payments even if they're going into statutory debt. So this is it's a conundrum in my mind, and I honestly don't know what the answer is, but I don't believe this bill solves it. I believe it actually makes it worse. Now, one thing, if I could ask a question of Representative Dabney, would he yield, Madam Chair?
He will yield. Representative Bennett.
Thank you. So, Representative Dabney, I'm just curious because in Article 1, most of the other parts of this bill really seem to line up with the governor's executive order, but Article 1 has significantly strayed from that order, and I'm just curious if this is something you've talked with the governor about or not. Wondering.
Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Representative Bennett, thank you for your question. First, let me assure you, nothing in House File 4415 prevents a school district from working with Kitty or Kitty's coworkers as they work with the children of that district who are the children of school-age children of essential workers, or as they work with the school bus drivers who are dropping off meals or packets for kids to continue their education. So let me assure you, your concerns are taken care of in House File 4415. But let me also assure you that you have an election certificate. We are a co-equal branch of government. This is our opportunity to say to Minnesota that the schools and the staff and the students and families of this state are worth our investment. That the kids who are supposed to graduate, who are being denied that opportunity to walk across the stage, are still going to be able to graduate. That those third graders this year are going to be next fall's fourth graders, regardless of what next fall looks like. And that Kitty can know that she's got a job, that she can help make those bills, and that we're not just going to say thank you, but we're going to have Kitty's back. That's the vote today. Are we willing to take the resources that Minnesota has and make sure that they're invested in Minnesotans? Thank you.
Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, thank you, Representative Dabney, or Chair Dabney, but you didn't really answer my question, but that's okay. That's our prerogative to do that. I guess I disagree with you there that this bill is going to really help Katie. It will help Katie if she's given a full-time job, but if the school districts would rather work with her and do part-time or however it is, that flexibility is gone, and it's full-time or it's none. So Katie probably would get laid off under the circumstances that I'm hearing here. And that would break my heart because schools don't want to do that. They want to work with their employees. They want to make things work the best they can in very, very difficult situations. And my heart goes out to all the Katies out there. And it goes out to the rest, the bus drivers and so on that I've heard talked about. It's tough times, it's difficult times. We want to help everybody. I don't believe this bill does that, but thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Hennepin, Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, House File 4415 is a great bill. This is a bill that recognizes what those of us on the east side of Minneapolis have known for a long time, that our schools are more than places of learning, and that schools are the beating heart of our communities. These are spaces where our children not only learn how to read and write and add and subtract, but where students learn how to be citizens and interact with the world and people around them. For many of our students, school is where they can eat a nutritious meal, address their mental and physical health, and receive academic instruction that accounts for their individual needs, all while in a safe and clean learning environment. And this has never been more apparent than during our pivot to distance learning. Schools have had to adjust quickly to meet the complex and individualized needs of our students, and our hourly workers are on the front lines of providing those services. A special education assistant who might have been working one-on-one with a student is now caring for a classroom whose parents are on the front lines of hospitals fighting COVID-19. A bus driver who would typically be responsible for driving students to and from school is now delivering Chromebooks, meals, and hotspots to students. Our school nutrition staff who prepare and serve children tasty and nutritious meals that account for their unique allergies and cultural traditions continue to do so, but now these meals must be able to be served at home, and so they are also writing instructions and making videos showing families how these meals can be prepared together. These hourly school workers are being called heroes for this work, but they were heroes long before COVID-19. These workers are heroes for recognizing when a child was having a hard day and needed extra encouragement or a break from classroom instruction. They were heroes for remembering exactly which child needed a kosher or halal meal and which of that child's friends had a gluten allergy. Hourly school workers are heroes for keeping our classrooms clean so our students and staff feel comfortable and healthy in their working environment. But we can do more than just call these staff heroes. We can provide them with real economic security so that they can do their jobs and take care of their own families while they take care of ours. Members, that is what this bill does. This bill will fairly compensate our hourly school workers who, in the best of circumstances, hold our education system up. And I'm so thankful to Representative Dabney and Representative Joachim for their tireless work to acknowledge and provide security for these essential workers. And members, it is not enough to continue to see the workers get paid through this crisis. These are the same workers who work so hard for our children that are also often paid the least. Many of them work second and third jobs, as Representative Kunesh-Powadin pointed out, to support their own families. It's also no coincidence that our hourly school workers are our most diverse school employees. We talk about closing opportunity gaps between white students and students of color, and it is the work that these staff members do who close those gaps. We need to prioritize funding for these workers in our next budgets. And just as districts rely on these individuals to make school happen, districts rely on us to fund these positions. It's our job to make sure they have the funding streams to ensure our workers have economic security and our students have the support they need to learn. And I'm glad that this bill addresses those funding streams to give districts support in that regard. I hope that we can see that fully funding our public education system is an investment in the economic security of our communities. So in closing, I want to share something that Faith, a Minneapolis Public Schools education support professional, told me. When I was speaking to Faith, I asked her what she wanted the Minnesota legislature to know about what she's currently doing, and she said she wanted us to remember not what the work she's doing, but how hard this is on the students she cares for. She talked about the stress that this is putting on the 4- and 5-year-olds in her classroom that are the children of these first responders. She said that she often gets asked questions while coloring about what a pandemic is and what her parents are doing. She said she feels proud to make sure these children feel loved and cared for at school. And she says she's also proud to know that she can make this sacrifice to be on the front lines when so many of her coworkers cannot. And I'm glad that we can pass a bill that shows how much we care about all of the people, like Faith, who care so much for our students and put them first. And with that, members, I urge passage of this bill. Thank you again for all your work to bring this bill to the floor. And to our school workers, thank you. You are the ones who do make our schools more than just a place of learning, and you are the ones that make school happen.
The member from Stearns, Representative Demuth.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, teachers, and staff are doing an extraordinary job. We see and we hear that every day. Our school administrators and school boards are leading their school districts and communities well. Our families are figuring out ways every day to help their students. Just like a couple of days ago, I saw a mom and a young son in 2 different kayaks kind of coming by on a lake, and she said, "This is Phi-Ed for today." Each person is uniquely facing the same COVID-19 crisis. Allowing our school districts to exercise flexibility in local control is needed. I received a call from a school district that I represent 2 weeks ago saying, "I have hourly paid employees that are asking to have their hours reduced. It would be better for them, and my hands are tied." So that local control is very important. I agree, a good manager, a good administrator, and a good leader does work with their staff, but not allowing allowing local flexibility to do this is what best serves us all. This bill prevents schools and staff from the flexibility of working together on an individual basis. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Sandstead wishes to be recognized for remote debate. The member from St. Louis, Representative Sandstead, you should be unmuted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I rise in support of House File 4415. And today is National Teacher Appreciation Week. And while I could not be more proud of teachers and my profession, I also need to let everyone know loudly and clearly it is the rest of the team that makes educating a student a success. It is the hourly workers. It is the bus drivers. It is the food service personnel. It is the paras in the classroom. And we've heard about the great work that everybody's doing. Right now, it is the hourly workers that cleaned out my children's lockers and bagged up their belongings because we didn't know that they wouldn't be returning to school. It's the hourly workers that called my home to ask if we needed meals, if we needed food, and to let us know that those meals are available. And when we were in a position to thank them and let them know that we were okay, they wanted us to know that they were calling all of our students to make sure that they were being fed. It's the hourly workers that are delivering distance learning materials, which is not the same as e-learning, especially in rural Minnesota where the broadband issues are extreme. And it takes a village, truly, and this village is doing a yeoman's work amidst COVID-19. And it is because funds have already been appropriated and allocated for these workers that I believe they need to be paid. But this bill, House File 4415, is not just about our hourly workers. It has provisions in there that will ensure the graduating class of upcoming educators will be able to go into the classroom when those doors are open. And without this House file, that won't happen. We're already facing a shortage. And I want to encourage people to go back into the field, go into the field. The heart of a teacher is our students, and we cannot deliver the best education without our hourly workers. When the school buildings open, the doors are open, and the kids come back, what a glorious day that's going to be. And I just want to ensure that we will have those hourly workers with us on that day. And with that, I urge your support for House File 4415.
The member from Mille Lacs, Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I think that there's no one in this room who doesn't find all school employees invaluable. We do. We know that it takes all of them to educate our children. But I do have to make this point. House File 4415 does not prevent layoffs. Article 1 does not prevent layoffs. And so to suggest that all of our school employees may get paid is erroneous because the provision here does not prevent layoffs. I have a question if Representative Davnie would yield, though, on another part of the bill.
He will yield. Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Davnie, the bill waives the requirements in Section 120B30 on the testing, but does that include the civics testing as well?
Representative Davnie.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Erickson. My understanding is that it is only the legislature that can do that, and we have done that in this bill.
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. How about, may I continue to have him yield, Madam Speaker?
You may.
Thank
Representative Erickson.
Representative Davnie, how about the testing for our non-public students?
Representative Davnie.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Erickson, again, as I understand it, we are waiving all of the state-mandated testing because it is only the legislature that can do that. I am not positive on I don't know what testing we provide non-public students. Some do choose to take the MCAs, but they are not, as you know, required to do so.
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. One last question to Representative Davnie. How about our homeschool students who are required to test? Is that waived in this proposal?
Representative Davnie.
Madam Speaker, Representative Erickson, this focuses on the mandates that we have on public schools. I would have to get back to you on how it impacted homeschools. It certainly was not intended to place any burden on homeschooled students.
Representative Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I do think we have some confusion in this proposal in regard to the a waiving of testing, because I'm hearing from homeschool parents who are wondering and are concerned about, what actually does this mean for them? Are there tests that they provide for their children because they're allegedly required to be reported to our school districts waived, or aren't they? So these are some questions that are left unanswered. But thank you, Representative Dabney, for obliging me.
The member from Anoka, Representative Barr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A couple of points I wanted to bring up. Nobody else is focused on the truancy part of this. There's a waiving of the truancy, if you're not in school, so you're distance learning or e-learning, you're waiving all of the truancy. But then later in the bill, on lines 11.9 to 11.11, it doesn't, says you get credit for instruction whether you're learning or not. And as a minimum, wouldn't it, if this goes through the conference committee with the Senate, wouldn't it at least be advisable to have the parents of the truant students, the ones, because we know whether they are logging in or not logging in distance learning, we know whether they're working or not, doing their homework. Wouldn't it at least be advisable to have the parents get a notification that their students aren't getting their work done? And the other point that I wanted to bring up was there's 6 references in this bill to the February forecast. The February forecast is a thing of fiction at this point. It is not anywhere close to what reality is going to be for the rest of this fiscal year or the next fiscal year. And I think it would behoove of us to, since we have a new budget update coming out at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon from MMB, that we table this bill until after we have seen what that projection looks like. So, Madam Speaker, I would move that we table the bill.
Representative Barr moves to table House File 4415. Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. No. The motion does not prevail. It's my understanding that Representative Wozlowick wanted to be recognized and that she is on the phone. So Representative Wozlowick, you are unmuted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think most of what I was going to say has already been said by my colleagues, but I do work with, I work in school-based child care program when I'm not at the legislature, and work with a lot of the folks, education support professionals, child care staff, nutrition services staff, bus drivers, all those folks that we're talking about today. And I think it's really important, as others have pointed out, that we, the schools have the money to pay these folks, and they should be doing that. And so just want to throw my support out there for the bill and encourage other members to support it as well. Thank you.
The member from Washington, Representative Detmer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I guess I could say over my 34 years as an educator and coach that I can honestly tell you I had never experienced anything like our teachers and educators and our administrators and our support staff are experiencing today under the COVID-19 environment. And over the past several weeks, I've been keeping my school districts that are in my district well informed on the progress of House File 4415. And Madam Speaker, I don't have any questions. I just have a few comments regarding 4415. First, House File 4415 is retroactive to the beginning of the distance learning, but would not be enacted until sometime in May. This bill would require a school district to provide payback to an hourly worker whose schedule was reduced at any point since March 30th. Secondly, if the hourly employee had been furloughed or have seen a pay reduction, the collection on unemployment benefits, this bill still doesn't provide any direction whether that payback is still required, or if the employee does get a payback, if they would have to refund the state of their unemployment benefits. And finally, As testified in the Education Policy Committee, the Minnesota Department of Education Commissioner Rickhurst, this bill does not protect hourly workers from layoffs. It only prevents reduction in hours, furloughs, which are different than layoffs. Madam Speaker and members, I will not be supporting House File 4415 in its current form. I would hope that when it comes back to the House, and possibly from a conference committee, that it's language that I can support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member from Hennepin, Representative Joachim.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. COVID-19 turned the last portions of our school year upside down. We've heard all the stories from our districts of the struggles our students and schools have had and are facing. Our administrators, teachers, support specialists, nutrition workers, bus drivers, and more have been doing the very best they can as they pivot to distance learning. This morning, we heard some stories from a few of our school hourly workers that are continuing to deliver academics, food, and lifelines to our students. We want them to know that their work is valued. This bill values them. We also know that despite everyone's best efforts, our opportunity gap is going to be exacerbated by lack of access to technology and the absence of relationships. Those valued relationships that are built in our schools between students and the adults that support their learning. This bill is one step we can take to make sure that those folks that provide those wraparound services to our students can continue to do so now and into the fall and into the future. This bill will help bring those folks back this fall when our students return and need help getting back on track. Members, I ask you for your support of this bill.
The member from Olmsted, Representative Kwong.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. My first publicly elected position was to a school board, Byron. I served for a while as the treasurer. Now, Byron, you've probably heard me talk on the floor, is regularly in the bottom, if not at the bottom in per pupil funding. But we also have very good results. A couple of years ago, we were at 100% graduation rate. The last I heard, we did drop down to, I think it was 98.6. We do well on the standard testing, and that's because we know our students. Part of local control is trusting the local school districts to pick and choose the best way to use their resources. And Byron is a good example of a district that has had fewer resources than almost anyone else, but it has had great success. Now, I think the amendment that didn't pass would have allowed a little bit more flexibility for the local districts to do what needed to be done to give the best results to their students. I also served on a special education district where I chaired for a while, was treasurer for a while, where we worked with several different school districts for special ed and other programs. And I can tell you, locally, the toughest thing is we've got individuals. Students are individuals, and they don't always fit into what is prescribed. So the flexibility that we have, we utilize to provide best for our students. Now, I think the amendment would have allowed for more flexibility. My concern is, in my interpretation of it and others I've talked to, it's same or nothing. And I've had constituents contact me because of this situation we're in, where they would like to have some flexibility. They work in a different school district. And frankly, I really hope that this bill comes back from conference committee with more flexibility, more enablement, empowerment to the local school districts, the people that know the students by their name, by their face, not just numbers. And so unfortunately, I like the intent, but I think the implementation without the amendment that was proposed is not a bill I can support. Thank you.
The member from Morrison, Representative Kresha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members, and truly thank you to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. We have had a lot of back and forth, and as I've said many, many times, getting to the right solution takes that. The truth can be beat up. We can go back and forth to try to get the right answer, and that's what this body is supposed to do. A couple of thoughts on why I'm voting on 4415, voting no on it. Again, many of the provisions are same. Many of the provisions we think we've helped improve through dialogue and conversation, and very happy to see those. However, I'm going to tell you a story. When I was a young parent, just had my first child, I was teaching in a school district in Piers, and I had a very good mentor who was the technology and woodworking, and we would go hunting, and we would do all sorts of things together. And I was always curious because he had 4 kids. I had my first, didn't know I was going to end up with 5. But through the trials and tribulations of having children, I would turn to him and say, how do you do this? How do you get this right? And he had teenagers by then, and they were going through. And one of the pieces of advice he said to me, he turned to me and he says, Ron, never, ever let your kids say to you, Dad, why didn't you tell me? He said, always have the hard conversation. Always have the difficult conversation, because you never want your children to come back to me and say, Dad, why didn't you tell me? Members, and I may be that guy today. I get it. And I've seen all the social media posts. I've seen it. This bill prevents layoffs. This bill protects you. This bill does not prevent layoffs. I don't care what math you use. If you're at 0, you're at 0. If you don't have the money and you can't afford and you're looking to make those budgets happen, you don't have it. Members, the power of denial is unlimited, but it's misguided. We are facing a budget crisis and 20% unemployment that none of us in our lifetime have ever seen. The history that will write this will talk about the unprecedented turmoil and tribulations that we're about to go through. Yes, I want everyone to survive. I want everyone to have a great Christmas. I want everyone to have a job. 597,000 people in Minnesota have already lost that, and we're not done. Our DE amendment is an affirmation of what the governor said, and if the governor and MDE believe their language did the best they could to help schools keep people employed, I think that was a pretty good solution. And I'll give one example on this bill why I can't support it, and I hope we can, and I'm sure the language can be improved, and maybe it'll come back and we'll solve this. But this bill goes back to the beginning of the distance learning period in March, and it says that employees are entitled to the hours that they were contracted, basically. Basically, there's no flexibility. Now, that sounds nice. I get that, right? And we agree. I agree. If the budget's there, you should spend the budget. You should keep the people going. But if something's happened and you have to be flexible with someone, and you're now the superintendent that's meeting me in Walmart saying, I have to be flexible, and he reads this language as we converse and says, I either let them go or I pay them full-time as they were contracted and they work less hours. People should be paid for the work they put in. We shouldn't make them make those decisions. So I just put this out there. Members, supporting the governor's language and MDE's language was the vote we took. There's nobody in here that has taken a bad vote. But let's be clear, let's be abundantly clear and not pass deniability and talking points onto the public. Nothing in this bill, we as a body cannot prevent a layoff because of the economic downturn we're about to go through. We can try to support, we can try to give comfort language, we can try to help with budgets, But next year, when you vote on the budget, think back to this day and think back to how we're going to be struggling to get as much money as we can to school districts just to keep them afloat. Nothing we can do can prevent this. Otherwise, we would have prevented the unemployment rate of 20+% right now. We would have prevented the mom and pop stores that are closing. We would have prevented all those businesses that right now are calling us saying, I don't know if I'm going to make it to August. And guess what? Their names that were once boosters up on the scoreboards of our school districts are about to become epitaphs and tombstones. Make no mistake, members, we can do the best we can, but nothing we can do in this bill prevents a district from having to make the hard choices, and school districts are in the business of people, and those hard choices affect our neighbors, our friends, our families, and our brothers and our sisters. For that, I'll be voting no.
Member from Hennepin, the author of the bill, Representative Dabney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, before I get into some of the substance, I want to take a moment of deep gratitude, particularly for the nonpartisan staff, but the partisan staff as well. They have been put, as all of us have been, but our staff in particular, into extraordinarily difficult situation. They have labored. They have exceeded anyone's expectations. That, for any of us who've been here, is not a surprise, but it's still remarkable. They have worked tirelessly on this provision and any number of other bills, and I want to thank the staff on both sides of the aisle, partisan and nonpartisan, who've made 4415 a better bill. And then I want to put this in a little context, because 4415 is the bill we're debating today, but it's not the only thing that's going on in education in Minnesota right now. The federal government in the CARES Act is sending $126 million directly to Minnesota school districts. That's an average of $185 a pupil. That's an average of a one-time 3% increase on our funding formula. Members, you'll recall last year, the Senate proposed a 0.5% increase. We were relieved when we were able to get to a 2% increase out of this body with the Senate. The federal government is coming in with an average $185 a person, a pupil, an average 3% increase. In addition, out of Ways and Means last Friday, we voted $37 million for broadband expansion in Minnesota, 15 million of that dedicated to our schools. Now, I know that the GOP opposed that expansion of broadband in Ways and Means on Friday. I'm hoping that they come around. I hope that they see that the delivery of telemedicine is critical right now. I hope that they see that the delivery of access to the internet across Minnesota is critical to education. And I hope that they see that building out broadband should be a priority because our businesses depend on it. And members, this morning out of Education Finance, we reported a bill with additional funding flexibility for Minnesota schools, getting rid of a mandate that's unproductive and unnecessary, so that school districts have that local ability to make the decisions on how to use the revenues they receive from the state. Right now, it's 4415 that's before us. Without your green vote on this bill today, members, your school district will not get the full funding that we promised them. Without your green vote on 4415, the teachers whose licenses are expiring this July won't be able to get relicensed and won't be in the classrooms this fall to greet returning students. Without your green vote on House File 4415, those candidates those kids who want to become teachers, those folks who maybe aren't kids but want to become teachers, aren't going to be able to get that first licensure. And at a time when Minnesota has shortages in teaching, without your green vote, those shortages will become worse. And without your vote on 4415, school districts will not receive the full funding or have the flexibility to use that funding as they see fit on the local level. Now, members, it's hard to speak about our education staff in Minnesota after some of my colleagues who are regular classroom teachers spoke earlier. And it is Teacher Appreciation Week. And I want to give a shout out to Ms. Lanick from South High School in Minneapolis, who not only is showing up every day on the internet to teach kids, but on Saturday, my son got a personalized postcard from her, handwritten, stamped directly to him, because she knows who he is as a student and a person, and she wanted to make another connection. That's just one example of the way our educators in Minnesota are stepping up and trying to continue those relationships that are so critical to education to our children in this difficult time. Our educators, our hourly staff, our principals and administrators have been doing extraordinary work. They deserve our thanks and respect. But members, they also deserve a paycheck. Because it's obvious that it's no longer enough to say thank you to the bus driver who got your kid to and from school safely every day this year, and now is dropping off meals and academic materials. It's not enough just to say thank you to the lunch lady who made sure they got their breakfast or lunch every day, and now is continuing to cook and package those meals for hungry kids across Minnesota in every community. It's not enough just to say thank you to that aide who helps guide their education, that aide who stops them in the hallway and chats for a minute, that aide who's checking in with them on the internet today. It's not enough just to say thank you. And this is where we will part ways on the vote. Those workers deserve to know that Minnesotans have their backs. That we're not just going to tell them thank you, we're not just going to tell them we value them, we're going to show them and do it by passing this bill. It's our opportunity to support our schools, staff, families, and communities. It's a way to assure our communities, our small businesses, our main streets, our students and families that we can come back from this challenging time. Because when we invest in Minnesotans, we invest in the future of Minnesota. Let's do it. I ask for your green vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Hennepin, the Majority Leader, Representative Winkler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, just want to take 1 minute to point out something that is of broader application, a broader observation about this bill. What we are doing in this bill is making sure that school hourly workers are able to the maximum extent possible maintain their schedules, maintain their salaries, maintain their hourly wages during the length of this crisis. We know that school districts want to keep them employed and are doing so because they need them. They need them to help serve food. They need them to help with distance learning. They need them to help support students in need. They're doing these things because our districts and our kids need these workers to be employed. What we're doing is making sure that the people who are not traditionally the best able to negotiate or have the strongest bargaining position, the people who do low-level service work in many cases are actually given the respect and the dignity of a paycheck and given respect and dignity and security in the workplace. What COVID-19 has revealed, I think more than almost any other crisis could reveal, is how many people are providing services to us every single day that we count on, whether it is people working in a nursing home or taking care of people in long-term care facilities and homes, whether it is people at grocery stores or at liquor stores, whether it is people serving as paras in schools, people all across our economy, all across our state and throughout our communities are providing essential services every single day. Childcare workers, they are underpaid. They cannot afford to support themselves and their families based on what we pay them. There's another component of this too, because these people are disproportionately Black, brown, and indigenous. If you look at the disparities in our society on income, on education, and on opportunity, much of it has to do with the fact that the people providing essential service work are underpaid compared to the rest of us in our society. It is a long-time problem that has really come to fruition in our economy as so much of it has shifted to service work, and we're seeing right now the crisis of the service economy and how much we count on it despite the fact that we aren't paying for it. So members, I hope that we can take a strong stand today in support of service workers, in support of people who need to have the protection of state government at times to make sure that they are not the first ones who are laid off or the first ones who have their hours cut or the first ones who have their wages cut. They can't afford it. We need to stand up for these people and do the right thing. And I'm very encouraged that we will continue to have support and conversation from both sides of the aisle on this issue, because I know that we want to get to the right place. But let's not continue to make this mistake that we have made over many decades, which is to say that the people who are providing essential services are the first ones to get a pay cut. That is not how we should be operating, and we're seeing now in the pandemic that it is unsafe for our society to continue doing that. Let's give these people the shot in the arm that they deserve, give them the security that they have earned, and let's do the right thing by passing this bill today. Thank you.
The clerk will take the roll for folks on the phone. Please, reminder to say your name and then say your vote.
Acom.
Acom, aye.
Acom, aye. Albright. Albright, no. Anderson.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye. Backer.
Backer, no.
Backer, no. Bonner. Bonner, aye. Barr. Barr, no. Baker.
Baker votes no.
Baker, no. Becker Finn.
Becker Finn, aye.
Becker Finn, aye. Bennett. Bennett, no. Bernardi.
Bernardi, aye.
Bernardi, aye. Bierman.
Bierman, aye.
Bierman, aye. Bow.
Bo votes no.
Bow, no. Brand.
Brand, yes.
Brand, aye. Cantrell.
Cantrell, aye.
Cantrell, aye. Carlson, A.
Carlson, A, aye.
Carlson, A, aye. Carlson, L.
Carlson, L, aye.
Carlson, L, aye. Christensen.
Christensen, aye.
Christensen, aye. Claflin.
Claflin, aye.
Claflin, aye. Considine.
Considine, yes.
Considine, aye. Daniels.
Daniels, no.
Daniels, no. Doubt. Doubt, no. Davids. Davids, aye. Davney. Davney, aye. Dean. Dean, aye. Damath. Damath, no. Detmer. Detmer, no. Drazkowski.
Kreskowski, no.
Drazkowski, no. Eklund.
Eklund, aye.
Eklund, aye. Edelson.
Edelson, aye.
Edelson, aye. Elkins.
Elkins, aye.
Elkins, aye. Erickson. Erickson, no. Fabian. Fabian, no. Fisher.
Fisher, aye.
Fisher, aye. Franson. Franson.
Franson, no.
Franson, no. Freiberg.
Freiberg votes yes.
Freiberg, aye. Garofalo.
Garofalo, no.
Garofalo, no. Gomez.
Gomez, aye.
Gomez, aye. Green.
Green, no.
Green, no. Grossel.
Grossel, nay.
Grossel, no. Gruenhagen.
Gruenhagen, no.
Gruenhagen, no. Gunther.
Gunther, no.
Gunther, no. Haley.
Haley, no.
Haley, no. Halverson.
Halverson, aye.
Halverson, aye. Hamilton.
Hamilton, aye.
Hamilton, aye. Hanson.
Hanson, aye.
Hanson, aye. Hassan.
Hassan, aye.
Hassan, aye. Hausman.
Houseman, aye.
Hausman, aye. Heinrich.
Heinrich, no.
Heinrich, no. Heinzman.
Heinzman, no.
Heinzman, no. Her.
Her, aye.
Her, aye. Hertos.
Hertos, no.
Hertos, no. Hornstein.
Hornstein, aye.
Hornstein, aye. Howard.
Howard, yes.
Howard, aye. Hewitt.
Hewitt, aye.
Hewitt, aye. Johnson.
Johnson, no.
Johnson, no. Jordan. Jordan, aye. Jurgens.
Jurgens, no.
Jurgens, no. Keel.
Keel, no.
Keel, no. Cleavorn.
Cleavorn, aye.
Cleavorn, aye. Cagle.
Cagle, aye.
Cagle, aye. Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun, aye.
Katiza Watun, aye. Kosnick.
Kosnick, aye.
Kosnick, aye. Kreshaw. Kreshaw, no. Kunish Podine. Kunish Podine, aye. Lehman.
Lehman, aye.
Lehman, aye. Lee.
Lee, aye.
Lee, aye. Lesh.
Lesh, aye.
Lesh, aye. Liebling.
Liebling, aye.
Liebling, aye. Lean.
Lean, aye.
Lean, aye. Lilly.
Lily, aye.
Lilly, aye. Lippert.
Lippert, aye.
Lippert, aye. Lislegard.
Lislegard, aye.
Lislegard, aye. Long. Long, aye. Lucero.
You are unmuted.
Lucero, no.
Lucero, no. Lewick.
Lewick, no.
Lewick, no. Mahoney.
Mahoney, yes.
Mahoney, aye. Mann.
Man, aye.
Mann, aye. Mariani.
Mariani, aye.
Mariani, aye. Marquardt.
Marquardt, aye.
Marquardt, aye. Mason.
Mason, aye.
Mason, aye. McDonald.
McDonald, no.
McDonald, no. Mecklin.
Macklin, nay.
Mecklin, no. Miller.
Miller, aye.
Miller, aye. Moeller.
Moeller, aye.
Moeller, aye. Moran.
Moran, aye.
Moran, aye. Morrison. Morrison.
Aye. Morrison, aye.
Morrison, aye. Munson.
Munson, no.
Munson, no. Murphy.
Murphy, aye.
Murphy, aye. Nash. Nash, no. Nelson M. Nelson M, aye. Nelson N.
Nelson N, aye.
Nelson N, aye. New excused. Nor.
Nor, aye.
Nor, aye. Nornis.
Nornis, no.
Nornis, no. Novotny.
Novotny, aye.
Novotny, aye. O'Driscoll. O'Driscoll, no. Olson.
Olson, aye.
Olson, aye. O'Neill.
O'Neill, no.
O'Neill, no. Pulowski.
Pulowski, aye.
Pulowski, aye. Purcell.
Purcell, aye.
Purcell, aye. Petersburg.
Petersburg, no.
Petersburg, no. Pearson.
Pearson, no.
Pearson, no. Pinto.
Pinto, aye.
Pinto, aye. Poppy.
Poppy, aye.
Poppy, aye. Poston.
Poston, no.
Poston, no. Pryor.
Pryor, aye.
Pryor, aye. Quam. Quam, no. Richardson.
Richardson, aye.
Richardson, aye. Robbins.
Robbins, no.
Robbins, no. Runbeck.
Runbeck, no.
Runbeck, no. Sandell.
Sandell, aye.
Sandell, aye. Sandsted.
Sandsted, aye.
Sandsted, aye. Sauk.
Sauk, aye.
Sauk, aye. Schumacher.
Schumacher, no.
Schumacher, no. Schultz.
Schultz, aye.
Schultz, aye. Scott.
Scott, no.
Scott, no. Stevenson.
Stevenson, aye.
Stevenson, aye. Sundin.
Sundin, aye.
Sundin, aye. Swazinski.
Swazinski, no.
Swazinski, no. Tabke.
Tabke, aye.
Tabke, aye. Tice.
Tice, no.
Tice, no. Torkelson.
Torkelson, no.
Torkelson, no. Erdahl.
Erdahl, aye.
Erdahl, aye. Vang. Vang. Vogel.
Vogel, no.
Vogel, no. Wagenius.
Wagenius, yes.
Wagenius, aye. Waslowick.
Wozlowick, aye.
Waslowick, aye. West.
West, no.
West, no. Winkler. Winkler, aye. Wolgamott.
Wolgamott, aye.
Wolgamott, aye. Zhang Jie.
Zhong Jie, aye.
Zhang Jie, aye. Zhang Ti.
Zhong Ti, aye.
Zhang Ti, aye. Joachim. Joachim, aye. Speaker Hortman. Speaker Hortman, aye. Vang. Vang. There being 83 ayes and 49 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.